Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The May meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is called to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Are any changes or?
I'll make a motion.
Otherwise, I look for a motion, accept.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
A second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I will we pay the bills as audited.
I'll second that.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You want to get into Cooper Lake first, and you want to do your COVID-19 update?
There's nothing really to update you on. We're status quo. We have everybody in that's supposed to be in. And most of us are all vaccinated and we're doing okay. With fingers crossed, we're gonna make it. The office is open. So we're good.
Okay. Cooper Lake.
Okay, I've been kind of keeping you guys apprised of what's going on. We accepted bids on the 15th of April. And as you know, this project is critical to us because we don't have a water supply without Cooper Lake. It's the basis for everything. It's, you know, our water quality. It's the key to our water quality, and our treatment is built around that, and the fact that we're a gravity system, it all comes from there. So this project is probably the most critical project that we've undertaken in 100 years. I think that's, you know, pretty conservative thing to say. And so when we structured these bids, we had a three-part process. One was the bid qualifications, and all bidders were required to submit a minimum of 5 projects, similar in scope and contract amount to the project. They then had to give 2 projects, and some of these could be the same project that ticked all the boxes, or they could be separate projects. And 2 of those projects had to involve embankment on dams or hydraulic structures. 2 of them had to involve water work and installation and maintenance of support of excavations, coffer dams, and control of water structures that are similar in scope and size to this project. And 2 had to involve the rehabilitation and construction of water supply structures, piping, valves, and controls similar in size to the project. So the way we have structured this was that the first step would be to evaluate to see if all the bids that were submitted met those qualifications. And of those that met the qualifications, then they would move on to the second and third round. And we had hoped to have, I think, 7 people bid on this project, and we ended up with 3. It was a little bit of a disappointment, not because of who submitted, but because we were hoping for a bigger field. But with only 3 bidders, the second phase was if you pass the qualification portion, and that wasn't to say that you were qualified, a firm wasn't qualified. The firm didn't submit enough documentation to substantiate their qualifications. We're not saying anybody's not qualified. We're just saying that we didn't have enough information presented in the bid packet as required to move forward with and to move you on to the next round, to deem you to have provided acceptable qualifications. So we had three bidders: Echo 3, Servodome, and Thale. Their base bids were all within 1% of each other. They were $140,000 from the low to the high. The ad alternates were a little bit different. The base bid is what we know we're going to build. The ad alternate is only those items that we are going to do if we need to supplement our water supply during construction with water from the choke. It's something that may or may not ever get built. So our engineers, and they're on the line, so you can ask questions of them this evening. The first step was they reviewed all the qualifications. And they did that independently, and they submitted it to their sub-consultant CDM. And CDM reviewed the qualifications independent of Schnabel's review. And then Schnabel had an internal process where they sent it to an independent person within their organization that's not involved in this project, and they reviewed. And they all came to the same conclusion that both Echo and Servodone hadn't submitted sufficient qualifications to be able to determine that they were qualified to undertake this project. They both objected to that. I think the Echo's information and letter was provided to you in the bid packet, because I got it before the bid packets were sent to the board on Friday. And I received a letter from Servodone subsequent to that on Monday, which Bill has read, I have read, and essentially they're making Bill, wouldn't you say, having read them both, they're making very similar arguments? They're very similar, okay. So they're both objecting, and Greg, if you wanna, I don't know if anybody here has any questions specifically, or do you wanna listen to Greg for a few minutes?
Yeah, I'd like to listen to Greg. I mean, it sounds pretty, open to me, they submitted it and bids were all fairly similar price-wise, and you just didn't have enough paperwork qualifying the other ones to have them in there. And Bill's letter, it's okay to just have one bidder, even though the two other ones bid, but they were not.
The question was not that they were not qualified, but their submission did not meet the literal specifications of the bid package that was provided. Not that they weren't qualified.
Right, you said that was totally
That's, you have to-
legitimate, legal, whatever, to move forward with just the one person.
Okay.
The other part, they won't get connected to the pipeline unless, say, we're down low and all of a sudden there's a drought, we need water to make the difference. So
There's
that'll just-
permanent parts of that connection that are in the base bid, and that's to our advantage, because then that's there forever.
If we ever need it, it'll.
Exactly, exactly.
That makes sense.
So Greg, you have anything you want to add here? You're muted.
That was intentional, but I forgot that I had done it. I don't think I have anything to add. I think that you covered it. I believe we laid out a pretty clear 3-step process in the project manual. We provided examples in the project manual where in each example, we provided 2 examples. In each example, one of the bidders in the example was not qualified to move forward based on what was submitted as qualifications. We just think it was incumbent upon the prospective bidder to provide the information that clearly qualified them to do this project. And only one of the 3 bids did that. Now, Echo provided very impressive qualifications, but not for work on a water supply reservoir. So we didn't think even one of the 5 projects that they had submitted was equivalent in terms of the type of work. Certainly equivalent and even greater in terms of contract value, but just not the same kind of work. Servodone's was slightly different. They provided a lot of information, but not very much detail on much of anything, and a number of projects that were very, very old that we didn't think projects constructed in the 80s, for example, had much bearing on what was happening in 2021 or 2022. Nor did they provide all, and either Echo or Servodome provide the 5 similar projects and the 2, 2, and 2 that Judy laid out. So, yeah, so Thale provided clear qualifications as we had anticipated others would, but they were the only ones who did provide clear qualifications. They provided more than 5 projects that were similar in size and scope. And they provided evidence that they are quite familiar with working on embankment dams with filters similar to what's designed here, water supply, towers and piping, as well as in-water supportive excavation work. So that's what our recommendation was, to move forward with Thale.
Right, and I would add, just add to that, that we, because of, this was a very important project to us, not necessarily a dollar value. I mean, we've talked a lot about how expensive this is. But we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting. And we had one prospective bidder who didn't make that. And so when they asked for, a dispensation from that they could then submit, Greg and I were quite clear, no, you can't. It's a mandatory pre-bid meeting. So, we don't know what that bid was at. As I indicated before, we may have had up to 7 people that were interested. And for a variety of reasons, only 3. And this is a complex project. And if you can't get the pricing that you need from your subs, or you're not going to submit, because it's a 2-year project. So there's a lot of risk associated with giving us a price in 2021 for work that's going to be done in the summer of 2022 in this current environment where, up is down and down is up in terms of supply pipeline. But at least one of those bidders we've heard did not submit because they were a joint venture, and one of their joint venture partners dropped out, and that was the partner that had the real dam qualifications, and so they didn't submit. Experience, not qualifications. So they didn't submit. So the bid qualifications were clear to at least some folks. And we had numerous questions on this bid for several weeks, and we responded to those, and we didn't get any questions from anybody on the qualifications. The experience that on the quals to submit to be considered qualified.
So the original estimate for this project was how much?
A total with engineering, 15.
Not what they submitted.
No,
The estimate was 15.
to do this whole project, soup to nuts. That included, money, engineering, design, contract management, which is 1.3 million. We thought we could get this whole thing done for 15 or slightly less.
But the estimate for the construction of the
Ah,
bid portion was
the low for the base portion, the low was 13.9 million, and the high was 14. There's a $140,000 delta between the low to the high.
and we were expecting this to come in around
11-ish. Maybe, somewhere in there.
and of that 11 million, or what we actually got, the 13,914. Does that include the add-ons, or is that the base?
That's the base.
That's the base only.
So when you put the add-on ranges from 1.4, which is the engineer's estimate of probable construction for that add alternate, up to a high of 1.8. So there's a $400,000 delta there. Now, we may not do that add alternate, and we're certainly not going to do all of it, because there's very detailed provisions where we would have the contractor actually operate that temporary connection. And I think we've internally come to a conclusion that that's something that we're likely to be more qualified to do than the contractor because, our operations staff they're licensed operators and our filter plant and our staff is in very close proximity to where this connection is going to be, where the pump is going to be. So it just seemed like that's,
So 1.4 to 1.8 is what our engineers estimated what they.
No, that's what they
That's
bid.
that bid.
That's what they bid.
And
That's what they bid.
what did our engineers estimate that should be?
1.4.
1.4, so,
Yeah.
okay, so they came in about,
One of them, yes, they were, in the ballpark for a project of this size. Yes, they were.
so the big question is funding.
Okay? And so I took the liberty of getting on, there was a special meeting, finance meeting being held. Normally, the process to get additional funding is a 2-month process, as Jim well knows. You say at the May meeting of the council, I would write the council president a letter asking to be referred to the finance committee. And then they would consider that in the end of their meeting at the end of May. In fact, their meeting is tonight. Their meeting is the same night as ours generally. And then they would get voted on by the full council in June, which was really a little bit beyond where we needed to go on our timeline. So the mayor had requested a special meeting for another matter for him. So we were able to get at that meeting, which was May 3rd. The council meeting was May 4th. So we actually have additional bond authorization for an additional $5 million. I'm not saying we want to spend all that, but we have it.
Do you know what the bonding rate is now?
Matt is more involved with that than I am.
We got money in March and it was one something, low ones.
So let me just ask you this, just for my own information. So 5 million, it used to be $1 million bonded, and about 1% or a little more or less. It was 50,000 a year payback. So that's 250,000 a year additional if we spend that. What would that do to the rates? I mean, how far?
Each $50,000 payment, on bond payment, is a 1% rate increase.
So that's a 5% increase.
Could be up to. As I said, we've kind of known this had between a 20 and a 25% rate increase impact. And we've been trying to raise the rates to avoid that rate shock over the last few years. We've raised, the rates if we needed 2% to close the budget gap, we maybe did 3 and put 1% in capital. So we have a little bit of a slush fund to be able to, to bridge that, kind of avoid that shock.
There is a possibility of the federal government, because water infrastructure, stuff like that, supposedly this new deal, but they haven't passed that yet, so it's
No.
so
But
up in the air, so.
the good news is, up until very recently, there was no money no funding for dams, none. And that's changed a little bit, and I think New York State DEC is now offering up to $100,000, and we can go back to 2019 for design work. So we're going to submit that application to the end of June. I know that's not much on the money we're talking, but then the next funding that is been promised to come would be for the actual construction. And I don't know any of the details, and I don't think Greg does either. But the other good news is, I think we're pretty sure that about 7 million of it will be funded through the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund as a loan through the EFC, which is at a subsidized rate, so it's not a market rate. And we've done, kind of that application, so.
And what is that percentage normally?
That would be, I'm trying to think of the last one we did was,
It's usually a point or a point and a half below market. Now, if market's only 1, obviously they can't be giving us money for taking it wrong. I mean, it would be nice. But
So that would still leave the water department borrowing 13 million, right? They're 50,000 a million per year. So,
It's a big nut.
yeah, and it's all.
It's always gonna, we know,
Well, yeah, I mean,
And it's
when I started this,
mandated, right?
we're talking like 10 million total, and if we,
Right.
with the add-ons and the engineering, we're almost 20 million.
well, but also, well, I don't think it's the engineering cost.
No, but I mean.
But I mean, because I think engineering is between 15 and 18%, and I think if you look at those fees, we're right in there. I think the issue is that we've expanded this project. I mean, we've decided not to do the West Dike portion, but we're gonna bring the dam up to, you know, as if we were gonna raise it 5 vertical feet. So that's an additional cost that we talked about. And the other issue is the show can piece was never contemplated, and that's not inexpensive. You know, that's, you know.
Cleaning that portal out, is that included or is that not?
Clean what portal?
No, the water.
Oh, no, that's not,
That's,
no.
that's,
No,
that's
minor.
routine maintenance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But all this dam work is like mandated, right, by the federal government?
Oh,
So it's like a
State,
non.
state.
State
So it's a
government.
non-funded mandate by the state.
Yeah.
And like me now.
so. Right.
So what are we looking for then? We're looking for a motion to go
To
award the bid?
To award the bid, that's the next step.
And what would be the actual amount that we would be awarding? The sale, is it?
I got everything else on here too. No, hang on, it's right here. The total price for sale is 15,824,465. So in figures, that's 1,582,465. And that's for a base price of 15,165. So in figures, that's 1,401,565. And the ad alternate is 1,809,300. And in figures, that's 1,809,300.
And when we award this, do we award everything?
That's how the contract is written, but it's up to us to determine if we do any or all of the ad alternates. And Greg, is that also your understanding? Yes. Yeah. So that, which is why you have to have the funding in place to do it all, but you may not spend it all. Because if you don't have a drought, and we can maintain the level of Cooper Lake,
And Judy, it's worth noting too that for that $14 million base bid
yes,
has a $300,000 contingency built in. So that's there, but it's only as directed by the
right.
And so the bond we have was for how much? Did you have?
We had authorization for up to 15 million,
Now we
and
have,
now we have another 5, so we have bonding authorization in place for 20 million. And even if we get money from the state for even the smallest amount of this, you still have to have the bonding authorization for the whole amount in place. And we're hoping to do whatever we can to offset it, but now the only other alternative, I mean, I know that there's 2 contractors that are objecting to doing this, but they're asking you award it, each of them is asking you to award it to them. I don't see that as a viable alternative because we've already turned other people down. I mean, you wouldn't let a guy submit a bid and another person didn't have the sufficient evidence of his qualifications because he lost his experience, partnered with the experience. I would say the only alternative we would have would be to rebid this, and that would delay the entire project for 1 year. That means, because you have to have this construction, you have to have that coffer dam out of there before the ice hits. And if we delay much longer, we're gonna miss that window. We've already got $7 million that we're paying interest on now, sitting there. And we'd have to pay to rebid the project, so you'd be incurring additional costs.
So when we go out the bond, how much are we starting to pay interest?
On money that we've already, you only pay the interest on what you take.
Okay, so
We have 7 million now,
We have, well,
12 million,
we have 12 million
sitting in the bank.
sitting in the bank.
and I went back and I looked, it was, one was the interest, but then we had a premium, so the net interest on the ban is 0.25%.
0.25% we're paying on that money, so it's not
Okay,
killing us. I mean, it's more than we want to pay, but.
so we can award the bid. We don't necessarily have to go out and borrow any more money at this particular time.
No,
I'm hoping we're good until next March when the city does their March ban, when this ban comes due. If we need more, then we would take it then. We'll be-
So all the bonding is basically saying is we have bonding approved
correct.
in place.
Correct.
But you can't award the bid without having that authorization there.
I think it would be, I think it's illegal to award a contract if you don't have the money or the financing lined up. It's kind of like buying a car if you don't have the money to pay for the car. Even though you might inherit the rest of the money, 2 years from now when you know how that goes.
And what's the likelihood that these two other companies would take legal action against us for not accepting their bid or rejecting their bids for
Well, I
any
mean,
idea?
I'm not a lawyer, but I know Bill has,
I
well,
cannot comment on that.
but I will, we've asked, Bill's been part of our discussions and he's researched and looked at case law, so I think he's confident that we're on solid ground, because I wouldn't be asking you to do this without chatting with our attorney.
And Greg, you concur, I guess, with that we're,
He's not a lawyer.
I know he's not a lawyer, but he's an engineer who reviews these projects, so
We,
I don't know
we,
what percentage of companies that actually sue for these reasons.
so we administered the bid process as it was described in the project manual. And we did that strictly by eliminating potential bidders when they didn't meet the mandatory pre-bid meeting. We had 2 of them. They had to attend a pre-bid meeting virtually, and they had to attend a site visit. And we then administered the qualifications section the way they were described in the project manual. So I can't tell you what others will do. I can tell you that some of the logic that's being proposed by at least Servodone is contrary. If we're going to accept qualification, if we're going to dismiss the qualifications and make them all equivalent, then presumably it would go to the low bidder, which isn't them.
We have to reward, and
No,
so.
I don't see even where that their avenue makes even any sense. Echo's qualifications, they simply did not provide anything close to evidence that they can work on a water supply dam in the wet. They provide ample evidence that they're a very competent contractor to do other things. And we did have a follow-up discussion with them where even given an exchange where we were pointing out the importance of having to have worked on an embankment dam with a high hazard or water supply behind it and constructing of a filter, they couldn't give us any evidence anecdotally that they had done this. So they were very, very careful in how they selected their words. They said things like, we've done all the components of this project. And they have done, but they've done no project that looks like this. And this can't be a project where that's the case. And we would be not doing our job for you if we didn't verify that the contractor we're recommending demonstrated full-throatedly that they can do this work by providing us project examples that are recent, similar, and of scale, both in dollar value and technical content. And that's what Vail provided.
Greg, may I ask a question?
Of
In
course,
making this recommendation, is this based solely upon your review of the submissions, or were they reviewed by any other party independently?
they were reviewed by two other parties independently. So we provided the bid packages to CDM Smith. Essentially, as they came to us, they went to them and they made an independent recommendation. It was the same. And we also, along the way, we've had a senior reviewer from another office who is familiar with dam projects and has been doing senior reviews on this project. So they understands the job, but isn't a member of the project team necessarily. The project manual and the bids were sent to that individual who also looked at it independently and came to the same conclusion that Brian and I did.
Thank you.
I would, in these conversations that I've had with Rebecca and Serbian, I want to be clear that I would be happy to work with either one of them on any other project. And, just on this project, even if they subsequently submitted qualifications, initially, they didn't submit proof that they had the qualifications to meet our standards in the bid spec. I don't think I want to say in any way, shape, or form that any of these firms, even other firms that chose not to bid, I mean, they're all good, solid contractors. We worked with them. DA Collins is doing the roundabout right now. We're working with all of these guys, and they're all good firms. I mean, they're just, it's unfortunate that there was, in some cases, there was a miscommunication, maybe not a miscommunication, but misunderstanding on their part of what we required. But this is the way it came out.
I guess I'll entertain a motion then to accept the bid from Vail Construction Company.
For discussion,
Huh?
open up for discussion before the vote.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll accept the motion and then we can have discussion. Well, we can have discussion first if you want.
I'll make a motion as long as you get there.
Yeah, we'll have discussions. I got a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, open up for discussion.
I just looking at the process and everything, what I can see and read, everything was up front. All the participants received the full documents of what was requested. One completed everything requested, the other two didn't complete everything requested, especially on the experience of past work that they did. So they were disqualified. I mean, it would make no sense to put it out there and then not follow up. Why put that in a bid package of what you want to see, not receive it and say, oh, that's okay. If you have to follow what you first put out there and you requested information, then you didn't receive it. So
Any other discussion? Okay. Those in favor of awarding the bid to Vail, I guess for the total of $15,824,465.
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Those opposed? Okay, carried.
Thank you. I know that's not an easy decision, and it wasn't a pleasant I think Greg said the other day that if you wanted to follow the path of least resistance, this wouldn't have been the path that you followed. So,
And time was
time's a
a
factor.
factor. You know, if you had plenty of time, you want to do it again, it's going to. Hence, why the package was something that information.
Okay. Not anything else for
Cooper Lake?
our guests?
I do, I have one other thing on the Cooper Lake issue. Brian was, going through you always want to review the permit, the DEC or the DOH permits that you get prior to, you know, starting the project, because there's usually a condition that they stick in there. And one of the conditions is we have to update our emergency action plan, which we have. We have an emergency action plan for all of our dams. I think that given what we're dealing with right now internally, I would like to ask that Schnabel undertake that on our behalf, because this is what they do. And I think the additional cost, it would be $5,000. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, that's what Ryan had sent to me. Just to be able to, updating it isn't a really big deal. It's not like redoing the whole thing. It's essentially updating a notification tree and then sitting down with first responders in Woodstock and saying, hey, this is where the water is gonna go if something happens to the dam. And this is where it's not gonna go. And it's, you know, we have a heads up, this is what we're gonna do. And so I think it's with what we're dealing with the pump station, and Debbie's the person that we would kind of throw this at to do, and she's knee deep into GIS right now. It just makes sense to do it that way. So I would ask that you.
I just think we're probably down the road, if we're fortunate enough to receive any money from the federal government,
Yep.
they'd probably want you to do that anyway. So you
It's a condition of the permit. You have to do it. And when, I'll be honest,
ahead of the game.
when we're done here, when this project is completed in 2 years, we're gonna have to redo the whole thing because it's a different dam. You know, so, and that's down the road. That would be a condition of approval, I would imagine, to redo that. So I think we're good. And we will find that money within the budget. That $5,000. Yeah, that's not part of the bond. We'll find that money within our budget.
So you want to look for, have a motion for that now?
I think that would be nice, because we'd like to get this moving.
Okay, entertain a motion to go to contract with Schnabel to update our emergency response plan for Cooper Lake Dam at $5,000. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
So Greg, I know we don't really have any, you and Brian are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. And I'm sure you have other things you want to do. But I would tell you that I did hear from Don Tutterow from Dale. And he was on this, he's on the Zoom. So, I mean, I think he's off now, but as were folks from Echo, as were folks from Servadone, but, which is fine. But Don said, hey, when are you guys gonna award that? And I said, well, here's the link. So they're very much aware of what just happened.
Do you want to do past 14 as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. This is, Matt, while I'm struggling to find the papers, why don't you just, I have them here. No, that's not it, I don't think, is it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you very much.
so are we free to drop off, Judy? I think that's,
We are, this is a time, this is the task for, this is for the, for the services they did for additional for the PLA.
Mhm.
And so I think we told you that there was gonna be additional work incurred. Schnabel had 56 hours on that project. CDM Smith had 44 to work with the consultant that did the feasibility study for the PLA, and the total would be for $18,565. And I think this was in the board packet, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah. And so we need that authorization, and thank you for that.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I mean, it's been authorized already, we just authorized the payment.
Payment.
Correct.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second,
Second, James. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
So yes, you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're still on your work there, right, Brian?
Yeah, I gotta go back to work. You're right.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
He said, because Brian actually works in Idaho, out of the Idaho
Oh, that's
office.
wow.
So he's zooming in from Idaho.
Wow. I mean, only makes sense to go with them since they're already doing your project and everything.
Oh, yeah, no,
We've
we've had them under contract for,
Greg did the
I don't
original,
know how many years now.
Greg did the original emergency action plan for all of our dams. But to update it, it's also a question of, there's all these flood inundation maps. Well, by the time, we don't have the wherewithal to make the copies and get them bound, and it's much easier for them to do it. And it's just right now with all the other stuff we have going on, we'll see.
So who sends out the letter to, even though they've been on a Zoom call? Does the engineers or do you send out?
The notice of award, that generally comes from me, and Bill's gonna look it over before we mail it out, just because I wanna make sure that,
And the two other companies are notified at the same time that they
Usually-
run out of order for bid?
yeah, all three of them are on the call.
Actually, the first two bids, the unsuccessful bidders are rejected for failing to meet the specifications,
Correct.
not because they're not qualified.
I wanted to make that point at the end, because part of their,
That'll be in the letter.
yes, part of their angst over this is that they're good companies and you say we're not qualified. No, it's not what we're saying. We're
It's
saying
not
you didn't demonstrate that you had the experience undertaking the work.
Didn't meet the
Right.
requirements of the bid process.
Correct. So that's a whole different issue.
Anything else on Cooper Lake?
Heck no.
Okay, moving on, transmission main rehab project.
All right, so we know that the Binneywater project is almost closed out. Just before this call, Paul Cabral and I, we have met with them, as well as Ryan and Debbie, and we essentially, they're all but a couple of little punch list items, like is the grass growing? We know that we've had a conversation about, we had some more grant money, almost $400,000, a little under $400,000 in grant money to fix another part of the transmission main. And so we didn't, and that, as it turns out, and I explained before, doesn't need to be fixed. Ryan, in their due diligence to look for this leak that we thought we had on this transmission main, we looked and we looked and we looked. We had the leak detection people in there, and what we found was there was an 1890 valve put in that was backwards. It's an open left valve, not an open right valve.
They thought they had a shut in.
Well, it was supposed to be shut. And what we were doing is we could never get the plant pressurized, and it was sending water up in the reservoir the whole time. It was cracked. So, and I have to give Debbie kept saying, are you sure then? I said, oh, come on. Nobody was supposed to be in that building. It wasn't supposed to happen. Nobody was supposed to be there, but somebody went in and they went, oh, it's bad. And they shut it. Anyway, Ryan actually, got the drill with the wire brush on it, wire brushed it off, and you can see the arrow. And so that was the end of that problem. So, but we found two major leaks on our transmission main between the plant and Binneywater. And so in talking to the Department of Health, they said, hey, you have an open contract with Schultz. And why don't you just fix those leaks on a change order? And we said, will you let us do that? And they said, sure. So we had them out there, and it will, Paul Cabral is suggesting, and I sent you the estimate for the change order from Schultz. I didn't send you it as formally as this, but it's in the board packet. It was
Very last page.
very last page of the board packet. It looks like this. 300.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
328,250. That would be for a change order to the existing contract to finish everything up. And what I'd like to, I'd ask for that to be approved. But also, Paul Cabral is saying that in addition to that, the actual cost is probably gonna be more like 430,000, because you've got, this is what it's gonna take, but there's gonna be maybe a change order, because field conditions are gonna be a little bit different. We might, we need an easement, a temporary construction easement to get through back into the woods, which I think we've already have an agreement on. So he's saying the whole thing will probably be 400, closer to 430, with about $50,000 contingency he built in there. We don't have to go to bid. How much money do we have left in the grant?
The grant is, I want to say it's like 385.
385. And anything over and above that, EFC will finance, roll it into our existing loan, as long as we don't exceed our bonding authority, which is 110,000, and we certainly won't. These numbers will come in low. I would ask that we approve Schultz's change order so they can get, that's why Paul called me, because the prices are going up astronomically right now. And they'd like to get this,
So this is a
change order
change order.
to the existing contract. We were just lucky that we had to wait till the grass grew over the winter, so while, otherwise this project would have been closed out and we would have had to go to bid all over again.
Right.
But, when DOH says, hey, by the way, you can do it this way, it's not something we ever thought about.
So I have a question, then.
Sure.
We have, so we have $385,000 left in the grant that'll cover this project, but it may go up to about 430,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the rest of the remaining cost will be covered by money from existing bond that can be rolled over?
Correct.
Okay.
A low interest. Now, we're hoping not to have that happen, but,
Okay.
just, if I came in here and told you that it was gonna be 328,000 and we went up there and found out that the leak isn't here, it's up here, and it's, we need more pipe.
Okay.
So Paul has, in order to do this, we've had to update our seeker, which we've done, update the engineering report for that project, which is here, and get the State Office of Historic Preservation to say that there's no culturally significant ground that we're gonna be disturbing. And we got all that. We've done all those things.
Okay. And are we ready to make a motion?
They need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept this changeover for $328,000.
Actually, we're doing it for four.
Well,
not
for
to
the change
exceed-
order for 300,
or we-
well, you can, Bill, what do you think? Should they just do the change order for the 328 or the cost not to exceed?
I think cost not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
Okay.
430, that's fine.
Okay,
And we're hoping
I'll
this will be
make that
done
motion.
by July 4th.
Okay,
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
all right.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
we had 2020?
We are in the process of getting all the approvals for that in terms of MWBE and we're moving on that. We have a budget. We were missing one of the things that for the valve work in the city, one of the things we need to do is Ryan and I and Buck need to identify which valves, because it's not like one size fits all. If we can use an insertion valve at this location, an insertion valve, say a 16-inch insertion valve might be 2 feet, you have enough cover to do that, okay? And another location, we might need a side gear valve, and you can't do this. So the cost is very location dependent for these things. And I think that we were honing in on where we thought we wanted them. Ryan, I know, has a wish list. But the pump station kind of got away from us, kind of exploded on us. So, yeah. And so, Ryan is on the line. If you have anything to add there, Ryan, feel free. I just unmuted you.
Can you hear me now? All right.
We can. Ryan in his spare time likes to listen in on board meetings because he and his son have nothing else to do.
No life.
No.
I am listening. No, I have nothing to add. The pump station's pretty much screwed us up this week, but we'll get back on that.
Yeah, he will.
So this is a grant for how much, man?
This one was 1.5.
1.5.
It's a grant, right?
Yes.
900 of it is over the grant.
Okay.
It's 60-40. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60-40. 60, we have to have 40% match. And so when I knew how much money we could apply for, we quickly sat down and we said, well, if 60% equals 900, then so it's a $1.5 million
It's
project.
like in-kind services or actual?
You could, or it's actual money. You can do it in kind, but that's harder for us to do in some cases, in this case. But,
Unless we get some of the work, right?
yeah, it's hard. We could certainly do some of it, and then that would be, we could account for that, but I think
I have
that's.
to figure that out before you have to bid.
Yeah, and we haven't done that yet, so we're still not having those conversations. There's some stuff that we certainly could deal with and some stuff we can't, to bring a contractor in to do, I'll say 4 valves in a week, we'd have to have, the things that we really could do would be the excavation.
Mhm.
We got 1 backhoe, 1 operator. So it's very hard for us to commit to doing that and make sure we get it done so the contractor doesn't claim downtime. But we'll look at all the opportunities and see what we can do. So,
There's no time frame. I mean, we're not in a rush to.
I mean, I think we want to get this done,
Mhm.
but I don't think there is a time frame, no.
Okay, I mean, in regards to the money,
No.
is all
No, they're pretty,
flexible.
we're still working on 2015, some of the grant money. They're good.
Okay, the aforementioned Foxwell pump station.
I think I've kept you guys pretty well up to date.
How fast was this guy going? Anybody?
Well, I don't know. Ryan is normally a real calm guy. And when I got that phone call at 11, he wasn't calm. I mean, the water was, one of our guys took a video and it's pretty impressive. There's water just all over the place. I don't know how fast he was going, but he never hit the brakes. That's all I gotta say.
Is he coming from Foxhole or is he coming from?
I think he was coming from Foxwell, Ryan. Don't you think so?
I think the police report had him crossing.
He was coming down Foxhall from the Broadway direction, heading towards Albany Avenue, and he made the left onto South Manor.
He was trying to make
Tried to.
Trying to make the left on the South Manor.
Unsuccessfully.
I stand corrected. Yes, he tried to make the left.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, when I walked over the road over there, and looked the way the building was, but he must have hit it pretty good too, huh?
He landed right on the air relief valve on the 1 pump there's 2 500-gallon-a-minute pumps in there. And my guess is they might have even been running when this happened. I don't know. Ryan would know because he probably looked at the chart. but it sheared it right off, and that's a 1-inch hole in the top of the pump. That's a screwed, a threaded connection. It's a 1-inch hole, and the low pressure at that pump station, because the back pressure from the tank is 80 pounds. So it literally scoured the paint right off the ceiling. I mean, you can go in there, yeah, no, it was, and so all those electrical boxes that are waterproof, there had to be a gallon of water in half of them. I mean, you'd open the water would just pour out. It was like a bad cartoon. I think we're up to about $65,000 so far in bills that we've received. I think it's 17 and change for McGowan to come in and demo, clean up, and stabilize. I mean, every time the train came by, before they got the stabilization in place and the bracing, I mean, the cracks got more expelled, and with every passing train. So what we saw on 1 o'clock on Saturday morning, when you got back down there at about 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, and then 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, the crack had propagated to 3 of the walls, not just one wall. And the reconstruction of the building is going to be about $33,000. We just got that estimate today or yesterday. We signed off on that. I want to say that you know, Ryan and his guys were amazing. You know, we got everybody out. They shut it down. I think we had it shut down by 11:15 or maybe 11:20. The water had stopped. We made some phone calls. By 10 o'clock the next morning, I had a bypass pump here disinfected and delivered to us. And his guys, they set it up by Saturday afternoon. And so that pump is over on Line Coop. We're pumping from the hydrant attached to the gravity system, and we're pumping up to a hydrant up in the tank system. And that's how the water stays in the tank system. There's a pressure relief valve that's on a hydrant up on Chestnut Street, that when you have a pump that's constantly running, you can blow the pipes out of the ground. So Ryan's got that set to blow at maybe 60 PSI, which is about what the pressure should be up there. We haven't gotten the pumps back on yet because Gallagher's is out of business.
Yeah.
And so Ryan located a similar type company out of Poughkeepsie, and they've been up, and they took the pressure relief valve and they're rebuilding it. He's promised Ryan he'll be back by the end of the week. And then we had Jim Carey in there to redo the electric. And so we've got electric to the pumps, and we're hoping to get the pump back on. Even if we have to, you know, the controls aren't working, maybe we can do it in local control. We have so we're up to about $65,000,
Yes,
but
That includes the 33.
yes, okay.
we haven't gotten a bill from Bernier Larios.
So does that go to his car insurance, automobile insurance?
Insurance on the policy doesn't nearly cover the expense, but what they did is they put their own city's insurance carrier on notice. We covered, I believe they have covered that, and how much.
Yes, we do.
From the phone call I had with his insurance, it sounded like it was gonna be somewhere around 75. Is that what, he had
His insurance, State
the,
Farm.
the car's insurance, yeah, and ours,
We have a big umbrella,
They
10
had
million.
property damage insurance for 75,000.
that's what it sounded like from the call I had with the guy. I
Would
didn't-
that cover
I
your
don't remember what that was,
deductible
but-
then, the 70?
We don't have deductible on that part of our policy.
Oh, no.
It's $1 one.
1,000.
1,000, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. No, it's not.
Great.
So the decision was made first of all, I gotta say, it's great to have all these local people. I mean, I had Dennis Larios was out there with me 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. He's coordinating all this. We had, you know, McGowan Masonry, John Dwyer. I mean, I emailed Matt, and Matt talked to him. He's our local agent, so you know, he had things in, obviously there's not too much he can do on the weekend, but he jumped right on it. I got Jim Carey came right in. I mean, I know we're talking about letting bids for people, but it was amazing that, you know, local people came and we're up and we're running and we're doing, in addition to, you know, Ryan's guys doing an amazing job. All these local people dropped what they were doing. You know, McGowan started on Tuesday. stabilizing the building, you know, we reached out to him, we looked at it on Monday, his crew was there on Tuesday. We had the building stabilized and everything done by Wednesday, and Monday he's gonna start rebuilding. So we're, you know,
Is there any other protection we should put around that building, like
or,
bollards or?
two things we're gonna do, which actually don't impact the construction. One is we're gonna put 6-foot Bilco doors on the end facing the train tracks, because if we ever have to get those pumps in and out, it'll facilitate doing that, and that's less bricks you gotta use.
Yeah,
So it's not really an extra cost. And, we're gonna put one hell of a guardrail or bollards,
Yeah,
something.
not swell, I mean,
Now, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that the city's looking to close, what's that, North Manor down right there.
South Manor.
Have some kind of sitting park area or something. You familiar with that?
This would be time to do it.
Yeah, well, talk to the mayor. 'cause I think
Okay.
that-
well, where are we, between,
the building there, what's the, I can't remember exactly, the new building
yeah,
there.
the knitting or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. The lace curtain.
The lace factory.
Down,
Yeah, okay.
over to
Going
O'Neill,
towards you.
over toward O'Neill.
It's shutting that whole section. Yeah.
The truth is, it's a nightmare. If you wanna go up Cornell, then it's okay to come down Manor Avenue, but if you're going down Foxhole, you're taking your life in your hands.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
So I always come up Cornell and go left up that street.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Yeah, then it's okay. Yeah.
But I guess it'll all be shut down, so.
I don't know. I'm not aware of that, that's okay. So it's a work in progress. The neighbors on Wine Coop are complaining about the noise pump.
Is that pumping 24 hours a day? or-
Yes, it is. And we've cited it away from, as far away from the houses as we can do it. But,
Emergency situation, I mean.
it is, and I have to say, the driver lives around the corner from there, so maybe they should knock on his door when they can't sleep.
They say you live in a Mussolini.
No, that's another address he has, but he lives on Clifton Avenue. Anyway,
Okay, nothing else the board?
now
needs
there's
to do,
nothing, it's a
right?
work in
Just
progress, we're working on it, as soon as we can get, if we can get Shrek up there, the pump company, by the end of the week, and we have the pumps on, because the rental from the bypass pump is $2,000 a week. $1,000 to deliver it, $1,000 to pick it up, and $300 to disinfect it. So.
Okay.
We're getting good at setting it up.
Quarry Street.
Okay, Quarry Street, Bill hasn't heard anything from their attorney, but I have kind of gone in through the back door there. And it'll be on the school board agenda, next week, I believe it is, the middle of the month. And they're poised to do it. They know it's a 2021 expense. I've talked to Dennis Larios, because our opportunity to get this done is in the summer, before the buses come back. And so I think there was kind of a disconnect. It sort of fell off the school district's table, as it were, and not because they weren't interested in doing it, because they had a lot of other stuff that they're, dealing with, like everybody else. So
Judy, I'm not really familiar with this, what actually?
okay, Quarry Street is, they, in the 60s, they put an 8-inch main all the way up to Bailey School. They blasted the hole, and they didn't put any bedding under the pipe, and so the pipe sits on bedrock. So we have a nasty winter. We're there 3 or 4 times in the winter. It's a nasty shutdown. And come to find out, when we went to, and then what prompted this was the mayor wants to pave the street. And I knew as soon as he took the milling machine out, the main was gone. And the main really feeds Bailey School. And if you go at Howland Avenue, that's school district property from there up. So we've been fixing watering breaks above Howland Avenue. And we really should have called the school district and said, hey, it's yours.
Yeah.
But we didn't know. But anyway, so it made sense for us to replace the water main in Quarry Street. It made sense for the school district to do it at the same time, because it's the same main.
Right.
And so they've agreed to do that. It's pretty much equal. It's gonna be a lump sum bid, unit pricing on bids, not lump sum. So there's rock and there's pipe. And so we'll be able to say, this is your cost, this is our
It'll be
cost.
like blasting and everything, right?
It will be. It will be. So, that we reached out to the school district, and the school district folks think it's a really good idea. Because of their red tape with the Department of Education, it's easier for us to administer the contract and send them the bill. Bill wrote up a very simple agreement. And their attorney is Margot May at Shaw and Pearlson. And our attorney, our labor attorney is Julie Shaw of Shaw and Pearlson. And so when I was sitting with Julie the other day, I said, oh, by the way. And she reached out to the person that represents the school district in her firm, and that's how we kind of got it back on the front burner. I said, I'm not trying to, anyway. So, it's gonna happen, hopefully.
Got it.
And it's an $800,000 cost for us, and it's an $800,000 cost for them. And Dennis Larios is handling it, and that should be that.
Okay, Tech City,
Um,
any news?
Yeah, a little bit, not anything big. I'm looking up some dates. The mayor has reached out to Jim Quigley and would like to sit down with Jim and talk about Tech City. And so, the dates are, Roy's working, the mayor's secretary is working out these dates, but May 25th. I'll send this to you.
Not a Tuesday.
I don't know what days, I don't,
It's
what,
a Tuesday.
well, I don't know what day.
25th is a Tuesday.
So the 25th at 3, the 27th at 2, and the 28th at 1?
28th at 1 works.
Okay, so, just, those are the dates. He's gonna let me know what the availability is. I'm free on all of them. And the meeting will be here in this room. Roy asked specifically if he could schedule the meeting here. So,
Well, you can push for the 28th because I'm not
Okay.
available on the
Okay.
Tuesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon.
what is better for you?
It is.
I'll text that to Roy.
Yeah, golf leg or something.
I do, Thursday afternoon.
I knew one of you did.
Memorial Day week, that's Memorial Day week.
No matter to me.
Okay, let us know.
Okay. Correspondence.
Yeah, oh, we have a nice one, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, I have a nicer one, I guess. This that came in, this municipal representative from Christine Wheeler and
Okay, yeah,
that, and just to, very simply, they're gonna make us all do drinking water, source water protection programs at some point. And for 18 or 19 people across the state, if you apply, they were gonna have their consultants do one for you. So I applied, just because, well, why not? We didn't get selected. I didn't think we would, because we're plain vanilla. Our watershed is kind of contained in the Catskill. They're looking for odd things, like, not odd, but like Newburgh, who's in a very urban watershed where, the town of New Windsor, the town of Newburgh control. They're looking for the Hudson River communities. They're looking for upstate communities that, rural kind of poor things. Anyway, we got turned down. And right now, I'm glad, because it would be one more thing that we'd have to deal with.
so this is just,
It's just a form letter telling us we didn't get
right,
selected.
the program is just something that they're providing them.
They got money for it. It's a pilot.
Okay, but it's not a mandate on us to do it.
Not yet. But they're gonna do this pilot. They're gonna pick these utilities, and they're gonna try to come up with a guidance document out of this. And then they're gonna make us do the source water protection program, which is okay. I mean, it's, one more thing.
Okay.
And this was, this little other correspondence that the mayor, this man reached out to the mayor. And the mayor promised him that he would send it, and the only reason that I, sent the email back was to lay out all the facts. for you guys when you read it. Ultimately, Matt called John Dwyer and the insurance company ran through the whole thing and denied his claim. So I don't think there's any action you need to take there. It's just that the mayor promised him he would send his email to the water board.
Where's Lindsay?
Down by Crane Street, down, in Kentucky.
Okay.
Of course, right there by the old school.
Yeah, Courts Mansion is down, it's by St. Ursula's, is down the street, the old St. Ursula's.
Ulster County Community Action Building, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on Lindsay.
Yeah, that's on the corner, yep.
So he's how far, is that Lindsay? No, is that?
He's on-
He's the first one, they're the next one over?
All I know is that we fixed a 4-inch water main break there in February. He claims he was away immediately for 2 months on business, but he does say his wife is home. His wife is,
Busy position.
she's very busy position, and so, but she's still, if you figure out, and Jim, you know this better than I, a 4-inch lateral, you figure out the volume of water in a 4-inch sewer lateral. Well, it would have taken a shower and a load of laundry in that 2-month period, it would have backed up. And it's not. He hired a plumber to come in, and the plumber found nothing but roots in there. So, it doesn't take much.
See, the plumber says that it was by the building, right? And that makes sense because it leaks and then it comes through the foundation.
Correct.
Where he said
They found it 22 feet out or
32.
Yeah.
So he's saying a whole different story. That is way out under the thing, 32 feet away. That water would never come back.
And I'll
that
tell you,
foundation.
I won't ever say that we never hit a sewer lateral for a home, because we do. Because they're never marked, because they can't be marked, because they're not material you can find with any kind of locate equipment. So the city comes out when we have a water main break and they mark the sewer. And they line up the manholes and they draw the paint. They look at their maps. They can't do the service laterals like we can. So we've hit them, and you hit them because all the water in your hole immediately drains out to the sewer. And that didn't happen here. And we had more water here than they knew what to do with. I mean, the pump was
Well,
running.
roots kind of kills the whole issue. If you're down and there's roots, they didn't go because you broke some, they just full of roots back and everything up.
Yeah, and then the toilet paper backs up, and before you know it, you got a dam. So to my knowledge, this gentleman has yet to fix his sewer. Because he wanted us to come dig it up.
He was saying he had a quote of like $20,000 or something.
Yeah, God bless him. I mean,
Hold on, plumbers.
Yeah, they're expensive, aren't they?
anyway, doesn't call the right one, I guess.
I guess not.
Anyway, I don't think there's any action that the board is required to do because the insurance company denied the claim.
Okay. Nothing else for us to close to?
Nope.
Okay, superintendent's report? This might be a carryover from the last time.
What?
The production, the very first chart.
I didn't fix that.
Right, that should be.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I apologize.
Oh.
That was the week of the pump station.
Yeah, okay.
And that's an explanation, not an excuse. And I should have corrected it, and I just said, no, it's not end of the quarter, I don't have to do anything here. So I will fix that now,
Okay.
my bad.
Because both of those numbers are off.
They are, they're backwards.
They're backwards?
They're backwards.
They're just backwards?
They're just backwards.
Okay,
Yeah, that's my bad.
yeah, okay.
As I say, the pump station, I mean, I think we went out 10, the guys went out maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night. And, I mean, I think we all went home for an hour or so, a couple hours, and we were all back at 7, and then I don't think we left each other until 5. I think by the time I came in on Monday, and Ryan too, I think by Tuesday we had 40 hours in, just because of the nature of, it doesn't happen very often. KPD was wonderful to us. The fire department was great. And they handled all the little things like getting the car towed out of there. all that good stuff.
Any questions on the superintendent's report?
No.
Otherwise, I'll accept the motion to accept.
I'll make that motion, accepted superintendent's report.
Second, anyone?
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to go into executive session?
Yeah, did everybody get the link to do that, you guys? To go into executive session?
Let me look and make sure.
You just, you have to log out of here and go back, or log in on a phone or something, and go into, we'll step out into the other room.
Yeah, we tried it.
No,
No, we're going into executive session.
Yeah. You send me the link.
Is it with the other meeting link, Judy? Is it separate? Is it the same email?
I sent it later this afternoon, I can resend it.
Is that, let me just look quick. I don't think I.
Yeah.
Hold on before you go out. Mr. Coonan has,
I just want to go back to the bid on the Cooper Lake Road, just to clarify, so that I'm clear with the board members that, in fact, in making your award to the sale, with respect to the other bidders, you have not found them to be unqualified, but rather that their specifications were not in compliance with the bid document.
The requirements,
The document requirement. Is that correct?
yes.
Just ask all the board members, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes, that's
maybe
my
meet the deadline also, right? To
Is
submit.
that correct, board members? Can you say yes or no, please? Can you hear me?
I can't, no, just say that again. I didn't get everything you said.
I need clarification on the record that in your motion, you rejected the first two bidders, that you denied, based on the fact not that they were unqualified, but rather their specifications did not meet the bidding requirements. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Just wanted that to the record.
That's fine.
okay. We need a motion.
Please go to executive session, and then we'll leave this running. Because
Okay.
if I log out, then the meeting is over, we can't get back in. But if they can log out, they can come back in. The host
Okay.
can't leave,
Okay.
and then we can go in the other room and huddle around. Matt, do you have the meeting up?
Trying to join right now.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna be able to join because you're the host.
Okay,
So that's it started.
I will do it.
All right, Judy, I'm gonna leave then.
All right, Jim. Thank you.
Bye, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim, I know you called me 3 times, but I'll be free tomorrow. Today was a little crazy.
Understood, fully understood.
All right, cool, thank you. I wasn't
All right.
ignoring you.
All right, take care.
Later.
I don't know if I have a motion or a second to go in executive session.
Second,
Okay.
motion,
Motion that, I'll motion to, I don't know if I can motion or not.
I think we can
Can
say,
I make a motion as president? Okay.
I used to do all.
They've had a lot of those, think about the sewer. My neighbor, like 4
There's two that
They're
really
all
bad.
ones.
They're all bad.
And they're, what people are saying, they think it's because Central Austin's doing fucking work.
Oh, yeah, it can be disturbing stuff. I mean, you go in those, when I replace like a lateral or something, they're roots, and they go right out and into the laterals. They're unbelievable. And the city really doesn't have any kind of program where they go in and sneak them. They just push that thing through, which has nothing to do with this, They need a cutter or something.
Now, this is what, this,
Sewers.
the sewer lines or your laterals out?
Sewer.
Okay.
And then the other thing, where I live, Sharon Lane, my neighbor down Sharon Lane, they have their water service. Although right, where Sharon Lane is, right in front of my house.
Okay.
It goes through the house and
Oh, is that a dead end one?
it used to get, oh, hill it, yeah. I don't know if it allows, it's a small street. But the house, their service line goes all the way down to Main Street. But
Really?
when I was a kid, there was a house on the street. So they had.
Only California.
Nope.
They're not gonna let
Bad,
me do
nobody-
this.
I don't think they put the water lines.
Some of those areas are so rocky that they don't, family lane, it's like legal, that same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, remember.
There's now a mark out there for water, who wants it.
Oh, Hey, Judy,
Yes,
you want me to stay in? What do you want me to do?
you can leave. I mean, there's just a personnel thing that has nothing to do with you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
You too, thanks.
Well, I wasn't in my house more than about 3 or 4 years, and my whole sewer line had to be replaced. Because, you know, it was the old clay tile and the roots got into that. I mean, the only thing that saved me was all the soil was so sandy. I don't think anything was getting to the sewer line.
But it wasn't coming back.
I went along.
You can have the ground.
Yeah. One
We should
little-
plant something there now.
Yeah.
Well, this guy had a leak, but what was the root of a tree had grown around his
Curb box.
curb box, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was,
I had a little leak on it.
he did, so a little worried.
Hey, come on back in, Joanne.
Yeah, I'm back here now. Yeah, nothing, when I went to the other link, it didn't.
You know what? Best laid plans of my cement, and I apologize, but it won't let me have 2 open meetings at the same time.
Okay,
I just gotta call Bob and tell him to come back in. I'm just gonna kill the recording here,
okay,
and then we'll just start it up again.
okay.
So I'm doing that right now. I'm gonna